Hi. It's Monday, the 19th of May, 2025. It's nearly 9 p.m. I want to share with you an email I just sent to one of my numerous therapists, but one that I kept for 3 years, I think, altogether, and it was probably the best one in terms of um, being not too therapist-like, if you see what I mean. Um, and he really felt for me, he really wanted, I mean, he went out of his way to try and help me. He couldn't, but that's not his fault. So anyway, I will read to you what I wrote and that I sent to him today. It's well, you will understand by listening to what I have to say. It's not very long, and I hope this will be the first video in a series because I'd like to develop the ideas that I talk about in that email today. So here we go. I'm going to get the document in front of me. Here we go. So I said, Hi, I have spent the last couple of weeks revisiting my old emails, especially those of my lost years, i.e., roughly 2021 till 2023, when I no longer journaled and I no longer took photographs. It's an aside. It's something I noticed that for these during these two years I no longer took photographs. Anyway, the years when I suffered the most, in short, the run up to my son leaving for uni in September 2022 and the aftermath of his departure. I wasn't aware that Gmail kept most of my emails, albeit in a sort of haphazard way that I'm yet to understand fully. So it was a very interesting exercise. Amongst them, I rediscovered one email you wrote on the 8th of April 2022, where you include the text of a report you wrote for my psychiatric team, which I reproduce below. As I read it again, in fact, for the first time with my adult self, I thought, I agree with some bits, but the end is completely wrong. And since then, I've been thinking about contacting you about it. But I've also stopped myself from contacting you. And every day, there's this battle in me about what to do. So I'm writing this, and I don't know yet whether I'm going to send it to you or not. Anyway, I suppose the motivation behind my contacting you is that I would like to explain to you what really was happening, what was really wrong with me, etc. And also what happened since 2023 that made a difference and healed my wound. Of course, it's a work in progress and I have ups and downs, and maybe it will always be a work in progress. Aren't we all works in progress? I'm not going to write pages and pages about it. I just want to give you the basics. Maybe I can elaborate later if you wish. So, one, the problem. So, quote, that's what I used to say constantly. I used to say and think constantly during those years. I'm not going to be able to live on my own. I won't survive on my own. I will not cope on my own. I no longer know how to live on my own. I don't no longer know how to live, full stop. So, just as an aside, it's stuff I kept thinking constantly. I kept repeating to therapists, to acquaintances, to psychiatrists, to you name it, anybody, and to so called friends. And I must say that people, I mean, it was obvious at the time, but I was suffering. But at the time already, I knew, but believes me. I'm saying the truth, but nobody believes me. And it felt like, but they're not hearing me. But that's they ask people ask me to talk. What is wrong? And that's exactly that. I'm not going to be able to live on my own. I won't survive on my own. And you know, uh, after he left, I did try to kill myself. It was impossible, absolutely impossible. And I kept saying to everybody, but people were always either belittling it or say or they just responded behind the point, or they would say banalities like, well, everybody, you know, everybody has to learn to live on their own. Many people, lots of people live on their own, and it was never addressed. And so it was already the case at the time, and it made me angry, and I was also distressed, and I was even more worried because I already had these thoughts, but with nobody able to say, "Oh yes, we're going to help you, or we're going to find a solution, or whatnot." It was even more anxiety producing. That's how I felt, what I thought. But on top of that, no, 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 you know. I thought, but no, nobody can help. I can't help myself because it was terrible. So anyway, and when I reread all that not long ago, because I've kept all sorts of messages on WhatsApp and emails and stuff, it was even more obvious that it was a, what's the expression? It was a dialogue of the deaf. It's like I was there and they were there, or I was there and they were there. It's like it didn't register in these people. Nobody. So anyway, I carry on. I will carry on now till the end. So I'm not going to be able to live on my own. I won't survive on my own. I will not cope on my own. Something I felt, knew, thought about constantly, told anybody who cared to listen. It was, of course, accompanied by unbearable anxiety. The part of me saying slash feeling this way was a tiny little baby. I also kept saying I felt like a baby. This was really a case of the presenting past. This presenting past is the title of a book by I can't remember who, but it's basically the what shall I say? It's the basis of psychoanalysis it's what is presenting the problem which is presenting is the past. Actually, it was really a case of the presenting past, but nobody heard it like that. So, two, the source of the problem. So that's me coming. out with that or coming up with that. At birth, by emergency C section, with my mother under general anesthetic, I was separated from my mother for 3 days because she did not want to see me because I was the wrong sex. An unbearable trauma for a newborn baby, feeling/knowing I can't cope on my own, I won't survive on my own. A pain so intense the baby feels suicidal, but of course there's no way of killing oneself. The trauma becomes buried in the unconscious to stop the pain. 3. The solution. At least my solution, but I believe it could apply to many people. There were several elements to the solution. For me, they were, in no particular order. 1. Become convinced/know intellectually/come to the irrevocable conclusion I am not mentally ill. I don't have any mental disease or psychiatric disorder. I have psychological problems. 2. Start tapering my psychiatric meds safely, slowly, with the help of my GP and a CGL, which is a specialized, I think it's a charity helping people to uh, taper or detoxify, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whether prescribed or not. 3. Reconnect with God and trust that God will send me the help I need to heal myself. 4. Cut ties with any person in my life who is not kind to me, even if this means there's nobody left for a while. It applies also to point number 1, i.e., get rid of psychiatry, because psychiatry is not kind ever to anybody. That was 4, so 5. So we go into a bit more ethereal. No, not ethereal. Well, I'll say it. You'll decide. Connect mentally with my imagination to my bestest friend/teacher/lover/relative/loved one. I mean, I wrote all that for people to choose whatever applies to them. So my bestest friend/loved one who passed away, but you can't do it with somebody who's alive, because if he or she is alive, uh, she can't. They can't be with you all the time. So it could be a celebrity. For me, it was a celebrity. It could be Jesus for Christians. And so connect mentally to that person and have imaginary conversations with him, aloud, in writing or mentally. And the answers sometimes were not at all imaginary. There were stuff that came up sometimes where I thought, did I say that? I don't say that sort of thing. It was weird. Ask for his support. Share everything with him that bothers me. No holding back. Imagine what he would say to me. Imagine the best answer/words/acts that I want to receive from him, and say and or do it. Do things with him. For example, go for walks, go shopping, cook, watch TV, listen to music, read, etc. so that I am never alone on the mental plane. Plus, happy coincidences and signs will pop up on the physical plane. This is to replace the best natural mothering I never had. And finally, 6, get a rescue dog, not a puppy, an affectionate dog, a playful dog. After years of looking in vain for a dog, God sent me an unneutered girl with all her female hormones intact. With her previous owner, she had been used to sleeping in bed with humans, so I let her carry on. She became a constant presence on the physical plane. She replaced another part of the best natural mothering I never had. Of course, I had to look after her too, take her out, play with her. Don't leave her on her own for too long and not too often. And I can't describe the effect on me of being welcomed with joy and glee and enthusiasm by her each time I come back. The last two elements, which are truly therapeutic relationships, repaired my terrorized and abandoned baby self and allowed me to learn to live on my own without panicking. It's not my ideal lifestyle, but I can live with it whilst wishing for a companion. And that's it, I finish. Okay, that's all I wanted to tell you. Right, so I'll stop here and maybe I'll get into details for each of the 6 points I've mentioned. Well, I hope it can help people who struggled like me. Um, well, I've already done 17 minutes. Well, just to say that I've suffered for 15 years and I was diagnosed with all sorts. I had all the diagnoses: depression, anxiety, bipolar, uh, whatnot. Um, and then finally, borderline personality disorder. Uh, but yeah. Anyway, I believe this is my mission in life anyway. To talk about that particular problem, the mothering we did not receive, the natural mothering we did not receive. So I was separated for 3 days, but many people were not. But still, they were separated at night. They were not breastfed, um, and I believe this is what causes a lot of problems. Okay, I stop here. Bye.